What's up, everybody? Welcome to Geeks from the Multiverse. I'm Matt, one of the hosts. With me is John.
What's up, y'all? As always, we're going to be talking about DC and the reboot. Okay, so
Boo.
yes, we boo. Yes, we all know that it sucks. Sorry, plain and simple. But the recap, real quick. So the last two episodes, right? We were talking about the DC reboot, of course, as a whole, right? In the last episode, we were just talking about the movies, and now we're actually going into TV shows.
Yeah, and there's a lot of TV shows, and we're not going to obviously get into all of them because we don't have that kind of time.
No, there's too many, man. Like
There's a lot. I mean, DC, I think, spent more time developing and doing TV shows than they have doing films.
And that's what, honestly, in my opinion, that's what they really should just focus on. More than anything. I mean, maybe they can work on the films like we've mentioned, but I think really just focus on TV shows, and I think you'd be doing a good job.
You know, I mean, not for nothing, but some of the TV shows are DC's best content, and it really doesn't get any credit for like the portrayals, the stories, like the stuff that they've put out as far as TV shows. Now, granted, some of the TV shows aren't great.
No, but there are definitely some notable ones that are, well worth watching. I mean,
Yeah.
because we're not going to get into it quite yet, but there are definitely some interesting ones that came up on our list that I was actually quite surprised was an actual DC, related, show, which again, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But, one show, Matt, now I'm thinking about it, is I'm kind of leaning towards like the original Batman like series, like the 66 kind of
66, yeah, Adam West.
So, a little fun fact, okay? I learned this today, which I had no idea. So, do you remember Rocky?
Of course.
Okay.
Eye of the Tiger. Who
Yeah,
wouldn't?
come on now, like the whole Rocky series, right? So, his coach, what was it, Meredith Burgess, right? Is that what?
Burgess Meredith.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, flipped it. So this guy, he's the coach for Rocky, which I believe he was in the first. What was he? First 2 or 3 movies. I think it was like 2 or 3 movies, something like that.
Yeah, I think the first 2.
Yeah, and like right in the end, unfortunately, he dies. But anyways, so that same character or that same actor plays the original Penguin in the Batman 1966 series, which I found really fascinating because my dad and I were talking about this, and I'm like, no, it's not. And he's like, yeah, let me show you. And he like, shows me a picture and then shows me like his portrayal. And I was like, no way. That's awesome. I mean, like, because when you hear his voice, it's like totally different. Like he's all grumpy and he's like,
Yeah.
Rocky, and like in this, he's just like, he's like, yeah, see, like he's the Penguin. Like that's who he's supposed to be. But he does an amazing job, which I found fascinating. But with these TV shows, okay, with DC in general, right? Like, the original Batman, Wonder Woman back in 1975, and even the original, technically, Superman, TV show back in
Adventures
1952.
Adventures of Superman was 1952, and I believe that one was George Reeves.
Wait, is Christopher Reeves his son?
That I do not know, John.
You know what, guys? I want you to look that up for me. I'd appreciate that. I'm not going to look it up on this episode. You know what? Do your homework, guys. Let me know if George Reeves and Christopher Reeves are somehow related. If they're not, just let me know. But anyways, looking at these original classic TV shows, these were kind of like the foundations for how I would assume now, like, the animated and some of the newer, TV shows that they've created, like how they based it on, right? Because like you look at, Adam West's, portrayal of Batman, right? And so, looking at his portrayal and looking how, what was it, goofy parody? Like, I don't know how you want to describe it.
It's funny because, you kind of, and I was watching, there's a documentary on Max. You can check it out. And they kind of go into the Batman television show back in 66 on how the actual, comic book writers and creators back in the 60s, when this show came out, they actually viewed it as a parody. like kind of like they were making fun and joking about the character of Batman and not making it like a real serious portrayal of the character itself.
Which it's pretty sad. Like, like if the actual comic book writers are saying that this whole thing is a joke, that's pretty sad. I mean, that's saying a lot,
Yeah.
like in my opinion, because if that's like a prime example of what we talked about already, like why haven't you included, like even back then, like the original people who were doing this at that time, like why isn't it necessary for you to, really collaborate, and actually make a really good TV show instead of just like, yeah, whatever, we're just gonna make it up on the fly and no
Well, and
big
the
deal.
thing too that I think you have to remember too, in the '60s, Batman had not yet been reinvented as essentially the Dark Knight. Um, he was more of a that detective wearing essentially a bat suit.
Well, I mean, in Adam West, portrayal, I mean, I don't even know. I mean, honestly, if you just take a photo or if you take a look at what he looked like, I mean, he was a
It,
dork.
if you watch I mean, if you watch a few of the episodes, it's yeah, it's a comedy show. I get it. Like, it's a sitcom meant for comedy. It's not a serious show like when we have Titans or Watchmen or some of these other more serious shows. It's a comedy. It's meant to be funny, but he's goofy, like over the top goofy, like doing disco dances and like weird stuff that you would never see Batman doing.
No, I mean, and that's the problem is like, why would you portray a character like that that doesn't make any
Walking up
sense?
the sides of buildings.
Yeah, and like he's like goofy looking as he's doing it. He's like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" He's like dancing with it. It's like, no, man, like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not what Batman is. But you know, yeah, I'm gonna kind of switch gears there. But like looking at you know, the the Adventures of like Wonder Woman, right? Like that's like a classic in itself. I mean, people know,
Linda Carter, yeah.
right? Linda Carter. I'm sorry, I didn't go that far yet, but yes, I mean, like you look at Linda Carter's version, like she did it. She did a good job, and there's a reason why it's a basically a cult classic for DC wise, you know. And I'm not saying that Gal Gadot hasn't done a good job, right? But like she was the first one to be like, hey, you know what? This is what Wonder Woman, could be, in that portrayal back in the '70s. But she did a good job in that role, in
Yeah,
portraying that,
yeah.
Um, but I mean, granted, unless you've seen the 1952 version of Superman.
I mean, obviously I wasn't alive then, John, but
Wait, wait a minute. Wait, whoa, 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 wait. You're saying you're not that old?
I'm not that old. I wasn't alive in the
I
'50s,
thought you
John.
were. I thought you were 150, man.
Um, but I have seen like scenes from the show. I haven't seen like a full episode, but I've seen some of the scenes. And I mean, it's like your typical 1950s show, like your Leave It to Beaver, like it's like that type of show
Okay. Yeah. So somewhat serious, but not too serious.
where, they kind of show him, if they show him kind of like flying or like leaving, he kind of just like leaves off screen, or he does something heroic,
He's
but
like,
it's very basic, you know what I mean? Like,
so is it like I've come to save the day? And like he just like jumps into action and like does his thing.
pretty much, but the portrayal is very, it's very pure, like Christopher Reeve Superman. It's very pure like that,
Oh, so
from my understanding.
so not what Man of Steel was.
No, it's quite opposite from.
Wow. So you're saying that the TV show did a better job than a movie?
It definitely did, yeah,
Wow.
definitely did,
What a concept. I'm just saying.
definitely did. And then you kind of move into, some of the newer shows. I mean, you have Lois and Clark.
Shut up, Lois. No, I'm kidding. That's a Peter Griffin Family Guy thing.
That one was '93, which, I mean, that one was more of a drama, I guess you could say. I mean, it was technically a Superman show, but it wasn't necessarily about Superman. It was more about Clark.
Yeah,
If I could say, I mean, if I can kind of get the gist of the show.
I mean it's like taking Smallville and like making it a lot older, and then just focusing only on Clark and not so much on Superman or the whole ordeal behind that. I mean, That's kind of what I would gather from
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it was more of like the connection relationship between Lois and Clark as human beings in, their relationship, their friendship, um, coworkers, him being Superman. That's what the show was about. It wasn't necessarily just like Adventures of Superman. That was about Superman. It wasn't about him being necessarily Clark Kent, although he probably was Clark Kent in the show. But the show was about him as Superman. Lois and Clark was different.
I mean, it almost seems like, when you look at both shows, that, when Clark was supposed to be, this like kind of ditzy, not really like, it was more clumsy, I should say, right? Because like he wasn't really, I don't know, he was supposed to be a dork. I mean, I guess the
Yeah.
best way to describe it. I mean, he was supposed to be this like clumsy guy, didn't really, know where his left foot from his right foot, kind of a deal. But like, I feel like I did see a couple, like, I do remember seeing a couple scenes, like, he was at like a gym and like he was trying to like, um,
I think
I think it was like trying to show off or something like
they
that. But
portrayed
yeah.
him more hunky, I think more, attractive looking than I think they did kind of that goofy,
Well, yeah,
clumsy,
yeah,
like,
parody.
parody of what a human would look like.
Right, and I think it was, to me, it's more of a drama.
It definitely is
I
more
think
of
it
a
was
drama,
more
but
like that.
it's definitely like that 90s drama. Like if you could imagine what a 90s drama is, that's what it is.
So just look up Lois and Clark, and
Right.
you'll know.
Another show that's obviously a classic is Swamp Thing.
I haven't seen it, Matt. I don't know what you're talking about.
I definitely watched it as a kid. I couldn't tell you anything about it now because obviously my brain's like fudge right now. But
Oh wait, is it because is it a certain word starts with an O, ends with a D, and then add one letter to that?
unbelievable,
No,
unbelievable.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, but
No, because the show came out in '93, and I was like in maybe middle school, John.
oh, hold on, Matt. Here you go. I'm gonna make you really feel that word. I was just born. Oh yeah, I got him.
Oh,
Oh, okay, here we go.
um, yeah. I mean that show was I do remember the overall gist of obviously the character and the show, which obviously the show was about the character. Um, but the show was good. I mean, it was your '90s,
Yeah, about Swamp Thing.
right? It was your average '90s comic book show. Like,
Yeah, that talked about a guy or a thing called Swamp Thing, and that I guess would be the gist of it. Because I don't know what else you want to mention about that. Because I have no idea.
I mean, it was a good show. I mean, I wouldn't say it was one of the greatest shows, but it definitely is a classic, and it's notable.
Well, yeah, I mean,
More notable than some of the others that were there on the list.
yeah, like what was it like? I don't know if it was called The Adventures of Flash, but
That was definitely one of them, and I never personally saw the show, but I mean, there's a few others. I mean, I think there's a couple other Supermans, I think, and there's a couple. I mean, there's a couple other shows in between there, but
I mean, it's also kind of like I know it's going to be kind of on topic here, but like, didn't yeah, Fantastic Four was also another weird '90s TV show too back in the day. It was like they just decided to be like, you know what, we're gonna create some weird crap, and I'm like, we're gonna throw in like random things, and I mean, again, we've mentioned this in like a previous episode with Mortal Kombat, but the that whole like weird
yeah.
clay mache thing, I don't know.
The '90s really pulled out some weird shows, man.
I
Like
mean,
there were some
I
weird
don't
shows
know.
in the '90s. I don't know what was going on with the '90s, but
I mean, they might be doing some things back in the day, man. I don't know. I mean, you were a kid, so you probably would know. I mean, I wouldn't know, but
I was a middle school kid. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
things happen in middle school. I'm just saying.
Hey. Um, so now we go to the CW shows,
My favorite.
which, again, arguably are probably some of the best shows from DC that can be seen.
Right, and that are actually.
Well, they're finished now, but
Well, yeah. They're definitely finished out. Well, some of them are. Some of them are not. Some of them, I believe, are still going, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe they're all done. I don't know.
yeah.
But, I mean, so I'll mention this, Matt. Like, when I watched Arrow for the first time, man, like, I don't even know. Like, the first episode was it was dark. Like it was just like it was nice to see the Green Arrow portrayed in a different way because Green Arrow it was he has a similar backstory kind of to Batman, but not quite in depth, in the way it was portrayed, right? But like to me, like watching that show and then when Flash came out and Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl and all these other ones that came out,
Yeah.
like Arrow and Flash really they brought it to another level. I mean, when they brought the Flash in, I was like, oh my god, this is what they're bringing in who, what, where, what? I don't know. I was so confused at first, but then I was like, this makes sense. And I like, and especially like during the season finales of those, I was like on the edge of my seat. I'm like, what's going on? Who's this guy? Why is he here? And then they're like, no way. That makes sense now. And it was like, and they connected it so well.
Right.
But I know you and I are going to talk about the dislikes about the CW, though.
Oh, definitely. But I do agree. I think Flash and Arrow to me were the best, and I started with Flash because, like I said in the previous episode, Flash is my boy. Like, as far as like speedsters, Flash is to me like one of the best, even from Marvel, whatever. Like Flash to me is story wise, character wise, like he's the best speedster to me.
No, I can agree. I mean, I would say second best is probably Quicksilver. If I'm going to take a general look at both like DC and Marvel, right? Because I mean, Quicksilver was like we already know this, but like DC and Marvel, of course, um, they took ideas from each other, right? So like if DC had one thing, oh wait, Marvel's going to do something else and then change the whole entire story, but basically almost the same exact character to a T, which was like, and that's kind of what they did back in the day. They just kind of was like, oh, you made this character? Okay, I'm going to make the same thing, change it up, and then like, recreate the story. And they're like, but that's the same thing. So like you look at Arrow or like Green Arrow, right? Hawkeye, weird, and it's like a very
Yeah.
similar, to a degree, but but again, I digress here. But it's one of those things that like you look at the TV shows and you look at Green Arrow and Flash. I mean, like those, I would say like are easily the best. I mean,
Yeah.
Legends of Tomorrow, they do a good job on like certain characters, but like Supergirl, it was okay. Like
The show was okay. It wasn't a great show. It was just okay. But like Legends of Tomorrow, the first couple seasons were great, and then the rest of the seasons were all the same. Like it was all the same story. And that's really
Yeah.
like what I didn't like. Like it was just the same narrative and it just got like so dull. It got weird towards the end. And it really, for me, it just really just dropped off. Like I did watch the whole thing, but it just really, interest wise, it just dropped off at the
Well,
end.
and it really just took a dive. I think that's what it was. I mean, like it was great. Like, and I'm not gonna lie, even the Arrow, right? Like the TV show, like there was a good few. I think it was like the first 4 or 5 seasons were like amazing, and then when it started to get the like 6 and 7, it was kind of like yeah, I don't really know. Now Flash though, I actually I really wish I would have watched like the later seasons, but I actually didn't, and I wish I would have done that. But like to me, the Flash, like out of them, I would even say it was even slightly better than the Arrow.
I thought the Flash show was the best out of all of them. Not just because I like the Flash.
No
but
bias here, yeah.
just the way that it was done, story wise, character wise, like it just was a really good show. You know?
Yeah, it made a lot of sense. Now, the one thing that I do agree with you, Matt, and I know this is going into the dislike of the show,
Oh,
is the fact of the crossover events.
oh, the big crossover event. So the very first one I believe was Crisis on Infinite Earths, which we talked about it in the last episode as, back in I believe it was even 66 where they did this in the comic books. Crisis on Infinite Earths killed pretty much every comic book character and then they reinvented their stories all over again, which is where you get like Batman as the Dark Knight.
right.
They reinvented the story. But in the TV show, they did this big crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earths, with what was it? Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl.
Supergirl, and I believe Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends
came
of
in as well.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. And
So you get this big crossover event, and it's nothing like the actual comic book event at all.
no, they don't kill anybody. They it's actually what's really surprising is you actually there's a timeline on how to watch all the TV shows together when these events came out.
Oh yeah. So you have
And-
to watch them in order, and you have to figure out. So to figure out how you watch them in order, you have to actually take the time to Google the show and figure out what order they go in, and then you have to look for each episode individually, and then you have to go and watch them in that order. But if you don't watch, say, Legends of Tomorrow, you watch that one singular episode, say in season 4, episode 9, you have no idea what's going on.
Oh no, I agree, and that's the problem with that is because a lot of these actually I'm pretty sure all of them were 45 minutes long.
Oh
And
yeah, no,
so-
they were all.
Yeah, they were all long. So the problem is, and there's multiple seasons. So realistically, if you had, I would say about a month or two of literally nothing to do, and you were just watching this, that's probably how long it would. I would say roughly it would take you to literally watch all of it, all all the TV shows,
Yeah.
all the everything else. And the funny thing is, we only mentioned those 4 shows because there are 3 others. Which was what was it? Superman,
Superman and Lois Lois.
Lois.
That's
Yeah,
weird. Black Lightning and Batwoman.
right. There were also a part of this Crisis Infinite Earth, as well as this was more later on, right? But I can already tell you, Black Lightning and Batwoman. Honestly, I watched a little bit of Black Lightning. It was okay. It was what it was. But like Batwoman, I never watched.
I never watched Batwoman, but just the simple fact that they did one season of Batwoman, and then they had to replace the woman who was playing Batwoman with another woman, tells me that I don't want to watch the show.
No, I agree because I think so. The original actress was Ruby Rose, I believe was her name. The one that the beginning,
Right.
And then I don't know. I don't even know who it was in the second one, but I'm not trying
They completely changed the.
the appearance. Let's just say the color of the skin. Okay, they changed white to black. No offense, that's just what it is. Like they went from one extreme to the other, and I'm like, how? And why does this make any sense? Again, this is why DC just pumps out content, and they just don't care.
They don't care about the characters. They're more into just pumping out the content. And, Batwoman is probably one of DC, as far as the CW shows, one of the worst. I would say probably Black Lightning is second.
Right, it's right above it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably right above it. Obviously Flash and Arrow are probably the 2 best. Legends of Tomorrow, I probably would put in third there.
Right, and then Supergirl, and then
Supergirl probably would.
I would say it's better than Superman and Lois. If I'm gonna throw it out there,
I never saw Superman and Lois, to be honest, but when I watched the crossovers, Superman was part of one of them.
well, right, because in the TV show,
I actually kind of dug his portrayal of Superman, to be honest.
it wasn't bad. I think it was good. I mean, now could I see him on the big screen? I don't know. I mean, maybe who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows? Maybe if they get smart.
Maybe. So if you moving over to Max, which used to be HBO Max, but moving over to Max, we have Titans, Doom Patrol, Peacemaker, and Watchmen.
So Matt's favorite is Peacemaker. I want you to remember that hashtag.
Oh, gosh.
Peacemaker. It's just
I have
go-
not seen
oh,
Peacemaker, just
so-
to be
no,
clear.
No, I'm going to be very clear on this. Okay, so I want you to go on our page and type it add. You could put at the @ sign Matt Gunther, and you could put Peacemaker hashtag Peacemaker, and then I think he'll enjoy that. So please, I would greatly appreciate this.
Please don't do that.
No, but anyways,
No, I think my favorite, as far as the Max shows, the clear front winner on this one is Titans.
and that's the problem with HBO Max, that I honestly never watched the Titans or Doom Patrol, when I saw them for the first, like when I saw like clips and I saw like the portrayal of like each of the characters. First of all, I don't even know who Doom Patrol was until they randomly popped up with a TV show. But like Titans, I mean, me personally, when I looked at them, I don't, it just didn't look right. Now that's just me, right? Because I'm just looking at it just
Yeah,
based
I
off
mean,
appearance.
you kind of have to give it time. Like you have to give the show kind of time to develop. I mean, there's I think 4 seasons of the show.
So what he's saying is I need to do my homework and watch
So
it.
there definitely is, I mean, is it a perfect representation of the Teen Titans? No, it's not. But I think the show kind of takes the Teen Titans and it takes kind of that teen aspect out of it because they're no longer kind of teens. They're more adults. Like he's no longer at a point where he's Robin.
Well, then at that point, you might as well just say it's like Young Justice, like in the animated side of the house.
Well, and they kind of work towards becoming closer to that team. Unfortunately, like with the reboot, that show ended. Doom Patrol ended because of the reboot. But the show, I mean, Titans and Doom Patrol honestly were, and not anything for the CW shows because those shows were good too, but Titans and Doom Patrol probably could have carried DC.
Well, they didn't because now they said, you know what? Reboot it is.
And that's the problem. Like you have this content like Titans, and I don't know the name of the actor that is actually playing the Dick Grayson character, but he starts off playing that Robin character, moves into Nightwing. His portrayal is really good. Now, Starfire, eh,
Okay,
like
because I think that
it's
also threw me off a little bit too.
give or take. Raven, I think they could have made different choices, but the show in itself is really good. It's got its dark moments. It's more serious in nature, but I think the portrayals are really really good.
I mean, first off, it's like you look at it and you're like, I don't know how well, like, I think when they looked at like the characters and they're like, you know what, let me see who would fit well with the actors or actresses, right? Me looking at it for the first time, I was like, what is this piece of crap? Did they just lay out on the table? They're like, yeah, you know what? Like you said about Starfire, Raven, and all them. Like, what? I'm assuming Beast Boy, right, was also part of this as well.
He is. He's in there kind of like a little bit later on.
But you know what I mean? Like, you would think that if they're gonna base it off Titans, like they would have all of them, like the original.
Well, and that's
What,
not what
like five of them. But
that's
yeah,
not what the show was. It wasn't about introducing the Teen Titans. It was just telling that story, pretty much like individually about them.
okay.
So it wasn't like a story of um like you're telling a story of like Flash and Arrow, and then you're doing a Flashpoint where they're all together. Like it wasn't a story like that. Um, like I said, you have to watch the show to kind of understand. It's telling a story of Dick Grayson. It's telling the story of Starfire.
Is Cyborg in it?
He is, but it's the Doom Patrol version, and it's not until like the very last part of the season.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, man. Like, he's a part of it, and the fact that he's in Doom
But
Patrol.
but it's not Teen Titans.
I understand. I'm just saying, like, if I'm looking at the Titans in general, I look. You know what? Fine. Maybe one of these days I'll give it a shot. Okay, just to end it with that.
Just gotta give it a shot.
Fine.
But I did like Titans. I also did like Doom Patrol, even though yes, I did not know about Doom Patrol until watching the show. But the show's entertaining.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
But Peacemaker.
Peacemaker, I will probably not watch the show because,
So,
like I said in the last episode, and not nothing against John Cena, but
no, it's everything against John Cena because you've already mentioned that. But
John Cena just, I don't know, like he looks goofy with that stupid shiny helmet.
this is great.
He looks like Ernest. I can't do it. I don't know. I can't do it.
You got to admit one thing, though. Okay, the fact that James Gunn, at least with the new Suicide Squad, not the old one, Okay, forget about the the original one that they came out with. The newer one. At least they've connected both that movie and that show together. That was like the one time they've ever done this, though.
I mean, at least they did something right for
Right.
now.
For now. But I'm
But,
pretty
but even you look at Suicide Squad, it's like, oh, let's just reboot it. Who cares?
No, but it's sad that they use the same exact name, and then when you look it up on Wikipedia, it's like all they care about is like the year. Like it's like Suicide Squad, and then whatever year. It's like
Yeah.
So it's like 2019 is the newer one, so it's like Suicide Squad.
But I
2019.
think it's just that maybe they just get tired of like, you know, we've portrayed Batman 3 times already. Let's reboot him. And somewhere, you know, they must sit around at a table and somebody goes, hey, you know, that's a good idea.
Hey, you know what? We loved Margot Robbie. We loved Polka Dot Man. We loved all these people that were on the original ones, like certain ones, not everybody, but only the certain ones. And then we'll throw in a random shark character. We'll have another, Wade Wilson kind of a character, like a same portrayal, like kind of like Will Smith, but we're going to have Idris Elba do this. And then you know what? We're going to throw in a random dude called Peacemaker. And we're going to throw him into the mix. And then we're going to make a, you know what? And then even better, we're going to make a TV show only on one of the side characters and nothing else. Because that's what had happened. That's
like, oh yeah, and the shark character, can we make him kind of stupid? Yeah, I think that would be good.
I think that's a great idea. Why don't we do that?
Make him kind of stupid, but not sharky at all.
No, like total opposite. Make him like a somewhat human, but like sharky,
like a 7-year-old child.
Yes, like a 7-year-old child. And then the best part is like, I'm pretty sure there's only a few that even make it, right? Because doesn't Harley Quinn die?
I don't believe she does.
Oh, I can't. Well, there was a couple that died though.
I mean, Polka Dot Man.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's dead.
The shark dude. Yeah, I mean.
Well, and you know what's, and I'm only going to bring this up because we haven't mentioned this yet, but like the fact that they're actually making a Suicide Squad game, like a video game, based on some of the characters, like Captain Boomerang, Harley Quinn.
What are you going to do as Captain Boomerang? Leave the game before it starts?
I mean, it's true because that's what he did in the movie. I can't remember the shark's name. It's like King Shark or something like that. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then I want to say it was one other person. It was like 4 people in this game that you could play as. It could have been Deadshot. I don't remember.
I know I'm not playing as Peacemaker. I can tell you that.
I mean, if you know what? No, I want you. If that really does happen, I really want you to play it. But no, it's ironic because they're just like, you know what? We're just going to take the 4 people from like either movie, and then we're just going to like put them in the game. And you know what? Maybe we'll throw in like some DLC where like, hey, you can play as Polka Dot Man. Hey, you can play as Peacemaker. Hey, you can play as Wade Wilson or Deadshot. It's like, no, man. Like,
no,
this is no.
We don't want to do that anymore.
Anyways,
we digress. The other show that's on Max, which they did 1 season and then obviously canceled it, was Watchmen, which was a kind of follow up to the movie Watchmen,
which came out way, way too long ago. Like, It's funny how they made a TV show about a movie that came out like way back in, I'm pretty sure it was like mid 2000s, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
And then they're like, you know what? We're going to randomly throw this out here. Let's make a Watchmen TV show.
I didn't mind the show. I understand, like, obviously for a show, they're not going to get the same cast. Understandably.
No, but I mean, they did do like flashbacks of the movie itself and everything else.
But the show was, for what it's worth, I mean, it was okay. It wasn't a great show. I can see why it got canceled, but I mean, with the reboot, it would have gotten canceled anyway. So
I mean, that is true.
It was an okay show. I mean, that one again was more on the serious side. I mean, that one was very serious. Like it wasn't.
No, it was not funny. It was not anything.
It wasn't funny. It was
strict.
Yeah, it was action drama, whatever you want to call it. But I think those are kind of the gist of the live action shows. I mean, Max pretty much has, I think, all of the DC content.
Now they do, but that's not true. There is one that you did not mention yet. Gotham.
Well, I mean, technically Gotham wasn't on.
It was not on HBO originally, no, but I can't remember what where it was originally on. I think it was just more on the actual cable. Like it was
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
and then it became. I think it was on Hulu, and then it went over to Max. I don't know, but anyways,
Which that show was confusing to me. I mean, for a show, I mean, Gotham was really really good.
oh, it was amazing.
But I always was every time I watched it, I always had this like, how are they going to resolve this? Because the whole show was supposed to, be around Gordon,
Right, and then it was weird because then you look at Bruce Wayne, who's this like
12-year-old.
yeah,
He's like
12-year-old
like
kid at
12-year-old
the time.
kid, and you're like, how are they resolving this? Like, you have Gordon. Obviously, he becomes commissioner, and Bruce Wayne is supposed to become Batman.
But mind you, in the comics, much later in life,
Yeah,
not so much, let's say a 16, 17-year-old
Bruce
kid.
Wayne is 12 in the show, so it's like, how are they going to resolve? Like, are they going to, the next season's going to be 10 years later? Like,
No, I mean, but they do introduce like interesting aspects like the Court of Owls, right? So like that was a big one in Batman. They mentioned like Penguin. I mean they did Mr. Freeze. They've done all the
the
different ones.
portrayal of Penguin in Gotham was awesome.
No, I think it was
Like,
amazing. I mean, unfortunately, to the late great Pee Wee Herman, you know, I mean, granted, I know he was kind of like more of a side character for Penguin because he was his dad, but like, you know, you know what? Never mind. But the point is like those characters in the show really did an amazing job at like their portrayal and stuff. I mean, it
right,
was a little weird when you're looking at Selena Kyle, as Catwoman, right, or like a basically a teenager, and then like Poison Ivy the same way, and then all of a sudden, hey, magically she's a woman. It's like, uh, no, like that. How does that happen? Like all of a sudden
yeah,
overnight,
yeah,
and like you have certain other characters, but I think at the very end of I think it was the last season, it was a little weird when the first episode was like, oh, I think it was like a year later, and it was like, hey, we're going to war with everybody, and it's like each villain had their own like sector of like of Gotham, like they had their own like territories and everything else, and it was just like it's a giant gang war, and you're like, what? Like,
yeah,
how did you get here? Like, you started from here, and now you're literally in a gang war.
yeah. And then the show basically resolves with Bruce Wayne eventually becoming Batman, but he's still like what, 13?
No, actually, well, hold on. You can't. I would say he's probably like 16, 17 at this point. Like, he starts off at like a 12-year-old, basically, because it shows you the first scene of his parents dying,
Right.
right? And so I would say by the end, he's probably about 16, 17, if I'm taking a ballpark guess. But like I said, him going into a bat suit, I mean, granted, the actor that played him, like, he's a scrawny dude. Like,
Yeah,
he is
yeah.
not, like, no, but the point is, like, you shouldn't have made him become Batman at all. Not at that end. Me personally, because like or like make kind of like in the Dark Knight, right? Like make him like go away and do something
I
else for
could
a bit.
see I could see like, maybe ending the show with foreshadowing. Like,
Yeah,
not seeing him in a bat suit standing on a, rooftop looking over the city, but like maybe the early developments of like, you kind of see like half of a bat suit starting to be made in the background, and you
right.
see like the cowl.
Or like right, or like look at his desk and be like, hey, here's some prototypes of what he wants to become at that
Right.
time.
Right.
Well, and I agree. But as we digress
Yeah.
about Gotham,
So one of the, I think, maybe I would probably, I don't know how long Batman or Wonder Woman or some of these other shows went, but I would have to say probably one of the longest running was probably Smallville.
oh crap, yeah, that's right. I forgot about Smallville. I mean, when you look at Smallville, it it just does a great job. I mean, now granted, I know you and I talked about this, but I mean, yes, he is dumb. Like in the show, he's dumb.
Towards like the last few seasons, like it just, he was dumb to the point of, can't you just give it up already and become who you're supposed to be? Like, can you now just do it? I mean, seriously, how many more seasons do we have to go before you're going to make this decision? Because it just became like every single episode, he was being told, like, this is what your destiny is, this is what your plan is. And then he would just do the dumbest thing and go, "Oh, my friends." Like, bro, you're destined to become Superman.
Well,
Like, stop doing these dumb things.
what's worse is like, if I'm not mistaken, like it doesn't actually show him like in the suit, but I think I think in the very end of the last season, it shows like him flying away, possibly in a suit, but we never actually get to see like if that's actually him or like whatever it was. But I will admit, I can't remember the guy who plays Lex Luthor though. He did an
Yes.
amazing job
Yes.
at playing him. I think he did like that was like what I would think of Lex Luthor, you know, hopefully later on in time. Like, and honestly, that's who they should look at. Like, if they're gonna like play, like get Lex Luthor into the mix of things later on in time, like get him, man. Like he would be perfect even now. Like, granted, he's a little bit older, I get it, but like he
Well,
would.
I think they first need to figure out Superman first.
I mean, no. I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, if you want a villain, get Lex Luthor. Like, that's him.
Yeah,
Like, that's
yeah.
just who I think of. But, I will say this though, Lucifer.
Lucifer. I absolutely love Lucifer.
Oh, hands
I mean,
down.
not the guy downstairs.
No.
The show.
The
Lucifer.
show. Yes, let's get that straight.
I want to clarify that.
it is because he is a DC character. Which at first, when I watched it, I had no idea like he was DC whatsoever.
I had no idea. Like I've seen, the show was on Netflix for a long time before I actually clicked on it.
Yeah, that's actually the same
And
here.
Every time it went by, like I'd see the same stupid preview.
Lucifer, and you're like,
and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to click on it and watch it. And within the first like few episodes of it, it was like,
I'm hooked.
I'm absolutely hooked. And like, even up until like, they initially were going to end the show.
Yeah, and then
they made more episodes to kind of give it kind of that better ending.
Right. And so what was weird about the show is, I think at first it was kind of weird when, you're noticing that, yes, Chloe was, that's the other main character, but she, it was just kind of weird. Like, she's like, yeah, I'm not believing you that you're, the man downstairs, when it comes to like the devil. Right. And like, it was an interesting take though on how, I mean, again, we're not talking about religion here, but like the beliefs of, God, and then, the devil. It was a definitely like interesting current modern, interpretation of it. But I'm not gonna lie, when I started watching it too, I mean, there was a couple times that I was like, "What's going on here? Like, why am I watching this?" And then be like, "Did you have to do it like that?" Or like I don't know how to explain it, but I guess it was just like there were some weird moments, and I was just like,
yeah, no, the show definitely had weird moments. Yeah,
I mean, granted, would I watch it with like, a 10-year-old? Yeah, maybe not. Personally, if I'm going to be honest, I mean, I would say, I watched it with my wife, and we both were like, "Hello, let's watch the new episode." Like so we keep watching it together,
Yeah,
and then even the new season came out, and I was like, we were like literally on our edge of our seats. We're like, yeah. We're like really getting into it.
It's such a good show, and you're instantly hooked when you first start watching it, and it's just one of those shows. Like, it's funny, it's interesting.
Oh, it's definitely hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly like it's as far as DC's like DC, I gotta say like they do really good.
No, like that show is a 10 out of 10.
Like, yeah.
Like, and honestly, like if you're gonna watch a show, like especially on Netflix, if like you have nothing else to watch, go on there and just
Lucifer.
watch it. Just straight up, just watch it. It's an amazing show. But
There's a couple others. Yeah, there's a couple others.
Here we go.
I know you haven't seen it.
No,
but
I don't actually know what we're talking about.
There is one, and the character itself, the characters, I would say, because it's more than just the preacher. It's the characters that are within this book. The preacher is initially it was a DC, character, but they sold it to a different publisher to publish the initial story books.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I talked about the
So they,
like the,
you know,
the
they are,
basics.
yeah, they are graphic novels. So they're not. I think they're technically graphic novels, not comic books per se, but you know,
Neither there or here.
tomato, tomato. Um, but in a whole, Preacher initially was created by DC, and then they sold the rights to a different publisher. Basically, is what I believe occurred. I could be mistaken. So
So actually, I want to give a
don't
little.
send me hate mail.
No. But I was going to say this. I want to give a shout out to Austin because I'm glad you clarified that for both of us because I was like I didn't know and he didn't maybe quite know, but I was like, you know what?
I
Thanks for the
knew it
comment.
wasn't 100% DC, but
But
I knew that they were more on the graphic novel side, sort of like The Boys, which we'll get into that in a
well,
minute.
wait, now you just
Um,
spoiled it, man.
but Preacher was more graphic novel, not really DC because of the content.
Yeah,
Um, and what they did with the show, and the show's weird, man. Like it's an interesting show, and
actually,
it's. I think I kind of went into explaining it a little bit, but um,
before you go though, like, is the main character was it the guy that played Luke Cage?
no.
Oh, okay. So that must be a. Oh, was it? What was that show? You know what I'm talking about? Like, I think you were like, "Yeah, I'm watching this show," and it's like the guy who plays Luke Cage or whatever. And I thought that was the preacher. Maybe
No idea what you're talking about right
okay. Then never mind. Keep going.
now.
I was like, forget what I just said.
Anyways, like the preacher is basically about this pastor preacher guy from the south. He's a drinker, smoker, like kind of a not good dude. Um, Probably shouldn't be a preacher to begin with, but again, that wouldn't be the story, I guess, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, and the whole premise of the story of the preacher is there's this half god, half demon being that was created, and they were keeping it under basically like lock and key in heaven, and it gets loose. And in the show, it initially like goes through these different churches, and it goes into like one, I think in like Africa or something. It goes into like one, preacher, pastor.
So it like
It basically liquidates him because he must not be worthy or whatever.
hmm.
And this thing basically has gone to different churches looking for the person, whoever the called person is.
And then lo and behold, comes
And
this
if
guy.
it finds this guy Jesse, who's a small town preacher, it goes into him, and he doesn't explode into ooze, basically.
Hmm.
Um, and it gives him these special abilities where he can kind of manipulate others.
So kind of like Lucifer.
Yeah, actually, sort of the same thing.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah. Do you think that I mean, because I'm assuming the preacher came out well before Lucifer.
I don't know when it came out, to be honest.
Well, that doesn't help, man. Maybe because
You
maybe
know
if I
what?
wanted to watch it now, I don't know when it came out. How would I know?
It is more recent, but I don't know. I think Lucifer might have came out first.
Oh, so it stole the idea from Lucifer. Hmm.
But as far as like Lucifer being a character and Preacher being a character, I don't know what story as far as DC or whatever.
Right, if they like connected it or something.
I don't know what story was created first.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you got a point. You got a point.
So I don't know if Lucifer was created first and
Oh
then
no,
Preacher
no,
was created first, or if they created Preacher first and then, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
no. I was just more talking about like the show wise, like if you knew like when the preacher came out versus like
I don't know the year that it came out, but
yeah.
it's probably more recent. I probably 2019, 20.
Oh, so the pandemic basically.
It's newer, I'd say.
Okay, yeah.
But it is. I mean, it is a good show. It just gets really weird towards the end,
Hmm.
like most of the
DC.
DC shows. The Sandman is another one. That one I believe is Netflix. Is it Netflix?
Oh, I have no idea because I've never seen it.
Um, that one was interesting. I don't know a whole lot about Sandman, to be honest. Um,
I guess is it based on like Mr. Sandman.
It actually is.
Is it like that?
It's the Sandman. He controls dreams. Basically,
Okay, so
like
that's what I was.
um
That's what I was wondering.
he was trapped, I guess, and it's kind of this mission to get his powers back to control the dream world again.
Oh, so it's like Freddy Krueger.
But Sandman and Lucifer are kind of in the same universe, so they're connected. Even though the Lucifer and Sandman is not the same from the show,
That's weird.
but it's the same character. It's the same like DC character.
Oh, of course. Yeah, but they won't, take the character they probably used in Lucifer and then.
No, it's not the same one.
No, of course not. No, 'cause
No.
they had to reboot it, right?
Yeah, but the character is in Sandman, so it does kind of make that cool kind of crossover. Like,
Wait, Lucifer actually does show up in the Sandman?
yeah, it's a character in the show.
Like the actual guy that played Lucifer?
Sandman goes into hell
But
to
the guy,
talk to Lucifer.
but the same guy.
Not the same guy. It's a different.
Oh.
It's a different.
See, and that's stupid,
It's
man.
a different portrayal,
I'm just saying.
and that's what DC does, though.
I know.
And that's what I'm saying.
And it's stupid.
We keep
because
saying that all over and over. We've said it in 3 episodes. It's a different portrayal by a different person.
Keep the same people.
It would have been completely awesome if that version of Sandman went into hell and you see this version of Lucifer from Netflix.
Yeah, to be in that show, like that would be amazing. But no. Let's just redo the whole thing.
Which was, I don't know her name, but she was in Game of Thrones.
You're gonna have to be a little bit more specific on that because there's plenty of female characters.
The kind of heavier build.
Brianna Tarth, like kind of tall.
Yeah, she was more of like kind of that warrior, heavier build.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I know what you're
I
talking
forget
about.
what her name is, but
Brianna Tarth is probably what you're talking about, but yeah, I don't. The actress wise, I don't remember her name off the top of my head. But
yeah, it was her playing the character Lucifer.
What? That no man. What?
I kid you not.
Oh, okay. Never.
I kid you not.
You know what? Why don't we? Because you've already spoiled it. Why don't you just mention the last one then?
All right, so the last one, since John says I spoiled it already,
You did it because you mentioned it.
The notable mention is The Boys, and we kind of mention it as the notable mention because although the characters from The Boys were initially created by DC, the actual comic itself was picked up by Dynamite Entertainment. I believe it's like Wildside or something. Initially did like the first 7 books, and then Dynamite Entertainment was hired to publish the rest of the Boys stories, which they pretty much just like picked it up and ran with it.
Oh, I'm gonna say this. They ran with it because
Well, when you have an entire book called Herogasm, I think that pretty much sums it up right there.
all I'm gonna say is there are definitely some scenes in that show that I'm going to suggest that basically this whole entire show you're gonna watch by yourself, no one else in the room, and you actually have to be daring enough to watch this show because this
Yes.
is not for the faint of heart.
No, if you're easily shocked by shocking things that you think you would have never seen on TV,
Then this is not
this is
the
not
TV
the show for you.
because when Matt explained some of these scenes,
Now, if you're curious, watch the show.
like I said, when he explained some of these scenes, I honestly did not believe him until he showed me, and then I looked at it and I said, "Wow, I cannot believe they put this on an actual television network or anything." And they're like, "Yep, this is a real thing." And granted, if you want to find it, it's on Amazon Prime. Okay, that's where it's at.
And so the Boys basically kind of follows this storyline of, our everyday superheroes are corrupted by evil corporations because they've basically been commercialized. And that's basically like the gist of the story. And The Boys kind of follows this group of, I guess, normal kind of everyday people who are fighting against the corporations and these superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, I will just say this: like, even the very first scene, or I would say probably the first 10 minutes, I think you'll get a clear picture on what exactly you're going to get yourself into if you decide to actually attempt to watch this. And again, I can't really explain it because I just don't think it's wise of me to say this, but it's one of those TV shows that if you decide that you're like, you know what, sure, you know what, I'm gonna watch a TV show, I'm gonna binge it, I'm gonna do whatever. More power to you because I know I can't believe Matt watches it in front of. I don't. Do you watch it? I hope you don't watch this in front of your wife.
When I've watched it, I've been by myself, but I've watched the whole show.
Right, but has anyone ever walked in while you were watching this show?
No,
That's good.
because I've either watched it when right when I get home from work, or later on at night when everybody's already in bed.
All right, let's see, and that tells you why Matt is not watching it in front of other people. That's all I'm going to say.
But with the shocking stuff aside, like, is it happening? The whole 45 minutes? No, not. I mean, not necessarily. There are some episodes where it could be 10 minutes, but it's not the whole. It's not the whole show.
No, but
The actual story and the actual show is actually really good. So don't let like the shocking stuff kind of like distract from the actual show in itself, because the actual show is actually pretty good.
well, I'm not going to say it's not. I just, like I said, depending on when you're watching this, and I would say like it would really suck if you were watching it and then all of a sudden those shocking things happen while somebody else was walking, let's say through the front door, and they were watching the living room or whatever, and you're like, "What are you watching?" And you're like, "I I just need you to go." Just go away because I can't really explain what I'm watching right now. But anyways,
It's definitely one of those shows, like, you have to know what you're watching before you just throw it. Like, it's not one of those shows like, hey, you want to watch The Boys, and then you throw it on and you're like, I am so sorry.
like I should have never put this on.
Yeah. But like I said, it's not every episode, and it's not like every scene is going to be shocking. They do tell a really good story, and it does, for what it's worth. Like, The Boys is a really, really good show. There are just parts about it that like is really extreme.
And you would never in a million years ever believe that it was actually existing on TV.
And there's things that you would never think that they would do on a show that they do on this show.
And the fact that it looks hyper realistic, like it's not, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, yeah.
In that sense. But
But it is, it is a good show, and that's one of the things, like, even though, yes, like, DC might not have had a part in even making the show, because it was probably more of like Dynamite Entertainment taking like their actual material from their books and somebody developing it from that. But the DC TV shows, like, the portrayals, the stories, like, there's so many, and some of them are so good.
I mean,
It really sucks that like the reboot pretty much erases all of it.
I mean, some of the best, honestly, even as a kid, like watching, the Batman animated series, right? Like the animated series alone, like for a lot of them, like Justice League, was it Internet? No, never mind. Basically the Justice League animated series, like both of them that they put on, Superman, all that stuff, like that was amazing. And one of the best voices of Joker, and we've talked about this, the best voice of Joker, who is it, man?
You know who it is, Mark Hamill.
That's right.
But he's not the only one.
No, but what I'm saying is like in that show, like he embodied it. Like it was amazing, and like that's DC did amazing with that. Like they hired the right people. I mean, what was it? Kevin Conroy like played Batman in the original, like in that series. He did an amazing job. It was like,
guess what? DC Elseworlds, baby.
DC Elseworlds back in the day. Yeah, that's right.
James Gunn and Peter Safran. You're doing a great job so far.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. But it's sad. Like those are the kinds of things that you want to see. Like if they wanted to make TV shows like that, I mean, Young Justice, like the original animated Teen Titans, not the Teen Titans Go.
No.
Like all those shows, like they're amazing, and then they're like, you know what? Like we said, we're probably beating this with a nail or a hammer over the nail like so many times here, but like it's that sad. Like you were literally giving up on everything.
And they've done it. I said it the last episode. I probably said it the first episode from the DC series. They've done it from the beginning
Yeah,
of the creation of DC. When they created Superman to creating Batman, they recreated them all over again. They keep doing it. They keep doing it. This reboot, it's not going to be the last time.
no. And the worst part is that they're going to be like, hey, so we actually forget about Elseworlds. They're going to come up with another name. Let's say 10 years down the road because they're like, maybe we should have planned. And that's why we suggested let them wait until like 2030 or so. Like let them give a few good, like a while.
Yeah.
Plan it.
Yeah.
Like make it make sense and do other like movies, other things that you can develop and actually make it part of like the actual good reboot and make it a household name again instead of just making it the way it has been.
I think if they made more of the more premium content like Marvel does with like they just did the show Secret Invasion.
Right.
But like Marvel doesn't just pump out a show like The Flash and all the CW, like they don't just pump out a show to pump out a show. Their shows have purpose. DC, you can look up what shows are like DC Comics have done, and there's much more than we've even talked about in this episode. But it's clear that like once they have a portrayal of a character, yeah, we don't like that anymore. We need a new portrayal.
Yeah, and it like I said, it's honestly sad. It's like, what do you do?
Really have to start thinking of like what is your identity at this point?
Right. What is your purpose? Like, why do you even exist still? Like, should you just go away?
Like, have you honestly like really lost the vision of who these characters really are?
I think they have. I mean, at least with Marvel, they understand the characters. They're willing to, maybe recreate like certain things, but like they're at least trying to stick with the story as best as they. I mean, granted, I understand they switch it up, but they at least stick with the story.
Yeah.
And at least commit to it. Like that's the thing. They commit to it. I think you know what it is? DC has a commitment issue. That's the real issue. That's the real problem. They have a commitment issue on all levels. They cannot commit to something. They just said, "Nope." That's what it is, man. It's like a guy and a girl, right? It's the commitment issues. Like that's what it is for a guy. It's just, "Yep, we're done. Reboot." So reboot is, "Oh, we get a new girlfriend," or "Hey, we got to do whatever."
Yeah.
Yep, that's what it is. That's final. That's what I full.
So instead of us fans having a Batman or a Superman or a character that we could really dive into and follow, we have to have a new one every couple of years because DC can't figure out how to really keep the same portrayal of a character.
Right.
Like I don't even care if it's the same actor, but what I'd like is consistency with a Batman.
No, actually,
Superman.
I will say this. I do care about the commitment of that person betraying that.
Well, I do too. At some level, I do too. But if you're, like we said before, how many Batmans have there been?
Too many.
Too many. How many of the same portrayals of Batman have there been?
I mean, they're all different in their own way.
Right.
But you're right. The consistency of the
consistency is they're all different. And I know some of the people out there be like, well, they're different on purpose. Yeah, I understand they're different on purpose. But what I would like to see is consistency between the movies. So if I could say Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3 is the same Iron Man in Avengers, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, like,
he didn't all of a sudden change in event. Like, he didn't become something different just because he's in Avengers.
I mean, granted, they did switch up Hulk, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, there was
Hulk is a complicated story, though. But
I know, as we digress here, but
anyways,
guys, We appreciate you. We love the fact that you're tuning into listening every week. I mean, even though there might be only like 5 of you that probably even commit to listening, which is okay. You know what? We do appreciate everybody, especially the comments and everything.
There's 8, John.
Oh, sorry, my bad. 3 more. But the funny thing is when we do these series and stuff, we're trying to make out some good content. We're trying to make it so that way you guys can relate to us and basically just make sure that these are things that you want to talk about, right? Because I mean, Matt, we talk about Marvel, we talk about DC, but you know what? That's why we create this stuff because we're passionate about it, and hopefully we'll try to get some more content out. With other ideas. Maybe you guys again reach out to us. That'd be great.
Yeah.
We're always listening. But as always,
Stay geeky.